Breaking news. The Tennessee Titans have just suffered a tough loss against the Denver Broncos, and trust me, this is a game that fans will be talking about for a long time. Mistakes, missed chances, and a controversial coaching call that could have changed everything. So what really went wrong for the Titans? Let's break it all down. I owe you an apology. A big one. Because while I expected the Titans to pull this one off, things turned out very differently. Yes, they fought hard, yes, they showed flashes of brilliance, but in the end, it simply wasn't enough. Now, I'll admit, I got some things right, but I also got a lot of things wrong. So let's set the record straight. I told you this would be a conservative game from Coach Callahan, and for a while, it almost worked. Until it didn't. The opening drive looked promising, Cam Ward made a solid play, Sly knocked down the field goal, and the Titans were up 3-0. But then, came the first major turning point. Bo Nix, under pressure, rolls out left, tries to go deep, but he's picked off. Roger McCreary snatched it out of the air like a veteran, giving the Titans an early spark. The watch party went wild, my voice nearly disappeared, and for a moment, it felt like Tennessee was about to flip this game on its head. But here's the issue, every time the Titans had a chance to capitalize, the offense just couldn't finish the job. And for that, a lot of the blame falls on Coach Callahan's shoulders. Nobody was asking for Cam Ward to put up historic numbers. Nobody expected him to completely outduel Bo Nix. But here's the thing, Bo Nix was awful in this game. And yet, somehow, the Titans still couldn't get over the hump. Before we dive deeper into this wild matchup and break down exactly what went wrong, do me a quick favor, backhand index pointing right, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and don't forget to ring the bell icon so you never miss the latest Titans news and updates. Alright, let's move forward with what really happened in the second quarter. When it comes to the Titans, playing conservative football usually makes sense. And for a while, it did. They had it first and goal, went safe, and honestly, I didn't mind. Protecting Cam Ward, shortening the game, I could live with that. But then came the moment that left me shaking my head. End of the first half. Titans with the ball on the Broncos' 6-yard line, 40 seconds to go. And instead of controlling the clock or running a smart set of plays, things got completely out of hand. First, you go conservative near the goal line, fine. But then, backed up at your own 3-yard line, suddenly the offense wants to air it out. That decision nearly cost Tennessee everything. Cam Ward was a split second away from giving up a safety, and if that had happened, it would have been a crushing blow before halftime. And the nightmare didn't stop there. The offensive line broke down again, J.C. Latham got bulldozed on the right side, and suddenly it looked like the Titans were flirting with disaster. 2 near safeties in the span of a few plays. That's not strategy, that's chaos. Thankfully, DK gave the Titans a spark. A massive 71-yard return that reminded everyone why he's such a weapon. For returns, 144 yards, he was electric every time he touched the ball. The crazy part? For weeks in preseason, the coaches seemed unsure whether he was even the guy for the job. Instead, reps went to James Proche and Jaquan Jackson, one's not even on the roster anymore, the other didn't make the team. What was the point of wasting all that time? And if the excuse was that they didn't want DK getting hurt in meaningless games, well, I don't buy it. Because if anything, it looks like the Titans almost wasted one of their most explosive weapons. But then we flipped to the second half, and at first, it felt like everything was finally going right. By the time we hit the later stages of the game, the Titans looked a lot like my voice, completely worn out. They just didn't have enough left in the tank. The defense, which had been solid for stretches, suddenly couldn't stop the run. Denver started gashing them on the ground, and eventually, that opened the door for the Broncos to punch in a touchdown that really put the game out of reach. But here's the thing, even with all that, Tennessee was still hanging around. They refused to fold. And then came one of the moments that drove me absolutely crazy. Special teams had been giving the Titans a lifeline all night thanks to DK, and once again he gave them a solid return. A quick juke, a nice burst, and instead of starting deep in their own territory, Tennessee had some breathing room. That's the type of play that can shift momentum. But of course, a flag. And guess whose name gets called? James Williams. Again. Earlier in the game, he was already flirting with disaster. Then this time, a personal foul wipes out DK's return. 10 yards gained, 10 yards taken away, just like that. And it wasn't just bad luck, it was discipline. Williams shoving a guy out of bounds after the play. That's not grit. That's not toughness. That's recklessness, and it cost the Titans dearly. And honestly, it wasn't only Williams. The entire team seemed to lose control. 13 penalties. Over 130 yards. That's essentially spotting the Broncos an extra touchdown, maybe two. You simply can't win in the NFL when you're beating yourself like that. Now, to be fair, the officiating didn't exactly help. There were a couple of moments, especially involving Brownlee, where the calls felt lopsided. Was he physical? Absolutely. Did the refs let him get away with too much? Probably. I'm not saying the officials handed this game to Denver, but they certainly didn't make life easier for Tennessee either. The bigger truth. The Titans hurt themselves more than anyone else did. 13 penalties. Over 130 yards. That's not just sloppy football, that's undisciplined football. And the blame has to circle back to coaching. Because this wasn't a one-time thing. We've seen it before. Think about it, Cam Ward getting shoved in the face during preseason, Brownlee throwing guys to the ground like it's a wrestling match, even getting into it with fans on the road. These aren't isolated moments, they're signs of a team that hasn't been tightened up in the offseason. And then came the moment that perfectly summed it all up. 3rd and 3. The defense makes a huge stop. Momentum swings back to Tennessee. And just as they're walking off the field, here comes the flag. Late. Always late. Illegal contact. After the play was already over. How does that even happen? If it's a penalty, throw it right away. Don't wait until the result of the play and then decide to reach for your pocket. That kind of officiating drives fans crazy, and honestly, it's why people think the league is scripted. But here's the brutal truth, the refs didn't beat the Titans. The Titans beat themselves. Even at the very end, Denver couldn't finish them off. Tennessee was still alive. But the offense? The offense shut the door on their own chances. And that comes back to Callahan. Yes, he kept the game close by playing it safe, but when it was time to take control, the play calling fell flat. The offensive line, which was supposed to be rebuilt, still looked shaky. Dan Moore's penalties killed drives. J.C. Latham looked overmatched and then left banged up. The middle held its ground for a while, but overall, the line couldn't open holes and couldn't hold up in protection. The run game? Non-existent. And when fans started asking in the watch party, why aren't we running stretch plays? Why aren't we calling screens to slow Denver's rush? There weren't any good answers. Instead, the Broncos pinned their ears back, came after the quarterback, and the Titans had nothing to counter with. Receivers didn't help either, Calvin Ridley dropping passes, Treylon Burks and others failing to make plays when it mattered most. At every critical moment, the offense came up short. Where were the wide receivers? Seriously, where were they? Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson, it was like they didn't even suit up. Not a single catch between them. And the Titans desperately needed someone to step up. Now, I understand Xavier Restrepo isn't a long-term answer and he belongs on the practice squad, but let's be real, are you honestly going to tell me he couldn't have helped today? Because what Lockett and Van Jefferson gave this team was absolutely nothing. And then we get to Calvin Ridley. I owe you all another apology. I told you Ridley was going to shine, that he'd be the playmaker this offense was missing. And maybe he still can be. But against Denver? He was awful. This wasn't just a bad day, this looked like week 5 against the Colts all over again, when he went 0 for 9 and couldn't catch a cold. Drop after drop after drop. Part of it is on the coaching staff for not getting him involved early. But part of it is on him. He has to make those plays, and he flat out didn't. The bigger issue? Nobody else on offense rose to the occasion either. There was no safety net for Cam Ward. And here's the problem, we don't even know how to judge Ward's performance. On one hand, he didn't commit the kind of backbreaking turnovers that will Levis used to make. On the other hand, he barely cracked 100 yards, completed just over half his passes, and finished with a quarterback rating of 54.5. That's not enough. And then you look around, where was Gunnar Helm after the first drive? Why does Chig Okonkwo disappear for entire games? And when your leading receiver ends the night with one catch for 29 yards, on a play that wasn't even designed for him, that tells the whole story. This wasn't one player failing. This was an entire offense collapsing. At the end of the day, this loss doesn't fall on Cam Ward. Honestly, I think he did as much as he possibly could with the cards he was dealt. Did he light up the stat sheet? No. But he also didn't make the kind of crushing mistakes that bury a young quarterback. He played under control, he protected the football, and for the most part, he let the game come to him. The problem? The team around him gave him nothing to lean on. The veteran receivers, Ridley, Lockett, Jefferson, either disappeared or dropped passes that should have been routine. That left a rookie quarterback stranded with no real weapons to trust. And still, Ward didn't fold. That matters. That's something you can build on moving forward. Now, let's shift to the defense, because they deserved so much better. 4 turnovers. 4. They forced Bo Nix into mistakes all night long and kept the Titans alive when the offense looked lifeless. They did everything you could possibly ask from a defensive unit. And here's the stat that will make you sick, Denver finished with 20 first downs. Tennessee had 7. 7. You don't need to be a football genius to know that's not winning football. The defense handed the Titans chance after chance, but without balance, without discipline, and without execution on offense, there was no way to close it out. That's the story of this game. At the end of the day, this loss doesn't fall on Cam Ward. For a rookie quarterback thrown into this situation, he did about as much as anyone could reasonably expect. Was it flashy? No. Was it perfect? Definitely not. But he didn't panic, he didn't force reckless throws, and he didn't let the game slip away with costly turnovers. That matters. The real issue was the support around him. The so-called veteran weapons, Ridley, Lockett, Van Jefferson, completely disappeared. Drops piled up, routes fell flat, and by the end of the night, Ward had no one to lean on. 0 catches for 2 of your veterans. That's inexcusable. And yet, give Cam credit, he stayed composed. He took what was there, avoided disaster, and made it through the game in one piece. That's a small win in itself, and it leaves you at least curious about what he can become as the season moves forward. Now let's talk about the defense, because they deserved way more credit than they're going to get. 4 turnovers. They made Bo Nix look like a rookie himself. Time and time again, they gave Tennessee opportunities to flip the game, and time again, the offense wasted them. Here's the stat that tells the entire story, the Broncos finished with 20 first downs. The Titans had 7. 7. That's how you lose a game your defense kept handing back to you. 7 first downs. That's all the Titans managed in an entire football game. Think about that, not even 2 per quarter. You don't win in the NFL like that, no matter how hard your defense fights. And make no mistake, the defense fought. Jeffrey Simmons came up huge with a strip sack, Joseph Day was in the right place at the right time to fall on it, and both McCreary and Xavier Woods came away with clutch interceptions. Even special teams gave the Titans a gift after Denver, with 2 All-Pro guys, by the way, completely imploded. The defense gave the offense chance after chance. They even got a massive 4th down stop on Bo Nix's quarterback sneak, flipping the ball back yet again. Every time you thought the game might slip, the defense clawed it right back. But here's the part that stings, with all those opportunities, the Titans should have won this football game. Honestly, I'd go as far as to say they should have been leading comfortably by halftime. Instead, they sputtered, stalled, and flat out wasted it. And now, here comes the Rams. They just held Houston to 9 points, so you know their defense is no joke. If Tennessee's offense doesn't wake up, it could be another long afternoon in Nashville. So I'll throw it to you, do you think the Titans can bounce back next week? Or are we looking at more of the same frustrations?